Hey, getting ready to grow some of my own fresh veggies coming up next. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to the show. Well, it's an exciting time of year. It marks the beginning of the growing season, and we're talking about vegetables. I love to grow vegetables because I love to eat. There's so many things to cover in today's show. In fact, we're going to visit the Bonnie Plant Farms in Alabama, talk about a few herbs and vegetables they have growing there in massive quantities in acres of greenhouses. And we'll also plant a few onions at the farm. Plus, I'll show you what plants make good garnishes, answer your question, and make this mouth-watering recipe. So I just have to show you a little project I've started. I planted a few English peas back in the cold winter in the greenhouse, and now I'm just transplanting them into containers, and I put 4 of them in here, and I'm going to do the same in this container. But the point here is that you can grow some of your vegetables in containers, and you can grow them vertically. And so what I've done is I've taken 3 just pieces of bamboo and tied them with this twine. And so what I'm going to do now to give these little guys something to hang on to, I'm just going to take some of this twine, a roll of it like this, and then I'm just going to loop it around the teepee like this. And every once in a while I'm going to come in just to give a grip, then wrap around like this. But basically what I'm doing is I'm just giving the sweet pea something to hang on to. Now these grow fairly fast, and this variety will grow up to about 4 feet tall. And you won't believe the number of peas you can actually harvest off of just a few plants. And I just think it looks kind of cool in the garden. And then I'll just bring it up here like this, and then take a scissor here and clip it off. There's lots of different types of peas, and one of the things I suggest that you do is that you plant them at different times, about 2 weeks apart, so you've got lots of peas coming on through the season. Now you can see I can start peas very early because they like it cool. So that's why this is one of the first things I always plant in my garden, peas and potatoes. Okay, enough of this. It's time to get started with the show. Now when we return, we're going to head to the Bonnie Plant Farm. You're not going to believe it, so stay tuned. I just have to tell you, one of my favorite herbs is lemon thyme, because it's an herb that's terrific for more than just the herb garden. Last year I visited Bonnie Plant Farms in Union Springs, Alabama, where I came across a greenhouse full of this wonderful plant. Just look at all of this lemon thyme. Isn't it gorgeous? Well, I just wish you could smell it. I mean, it's just incredible. Just look across all of these plants. It looks like a sea of lemon thyme. I use it as a ground cover in areas of my garden that are really well drained, and I want something that would be very decorative and interesting. In fact, I took a long narrow bed with some espaliered apple trees and planted lemon thyme under it. It was a knockout. To harvest thyme, all you have to do is take a pair of scissors and just clip off the tips like you're mowing this little landscape or this ground cover bed. Now, this is an herb that you can use in lots of different ways, not only in the garden, but in the kitchen as well. In the summer, this with roasted chicken is a knockout, and new potatoes, hey, it's a must-have. You know, what's so great about herbs is that you can use them in so many ways. You can use them as a ground cover, certainly something to use in the kitchen to give life a little more flavor, and just as a decorative container out on your patio. Pick up some herbs and have some fun. Now, coming up after the break, we're going to talk about planting onions and plants to use for party garnishments, so stay tuned. Now, different people plant onions in different ways, but I'm going to show you how I plant onions. In the spring, when the leaves start coming out on the trees and it's still pretty cool, I like to create a long bed like this that's about 30 inches wide, and I throw the ground up about 4 to 5 inches, and it's good and loose. You can see what I've done here with this. Really good soil. And I'll use a all-purpose organic fertilizer in here. Then I take onion sets. They come in bundles like this. What I like to do is just push them in the ground just about 3/4 of an inch, and I space them about 4 inches apart, just like this, you see. And I line them up, And this is a little sweet yellow onion. And what's great about these is that I can come out here and I can harvest them, can thin them out, and eat them as green onions through the growing season. And as summer comes along, I'll keep pulling the soil away from them. And that'll cause the big bulb to form, like we see in the grocery store. And then they're harvested and they're hung in the barn, or a place where they won't freeze. They stay dry and cool, and they'll last all year long. So we'll have plenty to eat all through the seasons. An easy way to dress up your party plates is to use fresh herbs and greens from the garden as a garnish. One of the simplest garnishes to use is just leafy green lettuce. You can use it as a bed underneath olives or crackers. For something that is so simple, it makes such a huge difference in the appearance of the platter. With the varied textures and colors of the greens that you can grow these days, every platter can be its own creation. Everyone's used a sprig of parsley on the side of a plate, but how about a bouquet of parsley in a bud vase? Use several of them. You see, it's so easy to do and adds such a nice touch to really any setting. And there's nothing like a nice glass of ice water, especially on a hot summer day. So try adding a sprig of mint. Not only is it beautiful, it also gives the water a refreshing mint flavor. My friends at Bonnie Plants have a wide variety of herbs and vegetables, so I'm never at a loss to try something new. Okay, it's time to take another short break, but when we return, we'll talk about giant veggies, so stay with us. Some of us gardeners enjoy the competition of growing the largest vegetables or flowers we can. Some of us even try to grow things earlier than others. For instance, Thomas Jefferson always competed with his friend, a neighbor, about who could bring fresh peas to the garden the soonest. Well, it's a lot of fun, but there's a program that you kids can engage in where they can grow giant cabbages. You see, there's some cabbage plants that can get over 50 pounds in size. While I was in Alabama visiting the Bonnie Plant Farms, I was able to visit a greenhouse full of OS cabbage plants, and OS stands for oversize. I don't know what it is about giant vegetables that intrigues us. Giant pumpkins, giant watermelons, giant cabbage. This is an OS cross hybrid, and these cabbage plants in this flat, well, they will grow potentially up to 50 pounds each. Now that is colossal. Talk about a way to get a kid engaged in gardening. Just tell them they're going to be able to grow a cabbage that weighs 50 pounds. They won't believe it. But it's true. It happens every year across this entire country. Now if you want to grow these giant cabbages, you've got to start with the OS Cross hybrid. When you plant them, you want to make sure you do it where they're going to be planted, where they're going to get plenty of cool weather. For instance, in the south, you probably need to plant them very early in the spring before it gets too hot. You see, these will mature in about 85 days. They get so big, you plant them about 3 feet apart. So, you know, if you've got a small vegetable garden, you may have only room for just 2 or 3. Now, whether you're growing this OS Cross hybrid or other cabbages, or for that matter, other members of the cole family, which is what we have here in the way of cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, and collards and so forth. About the only problem I've had with my cabbage is this little caterpillar that gets in there and starts eating the cabbage. What I recommend is that you use BT. You can get this at your local farm supply. BT is perfectly safe to spray on anything that you eat, and a caterpillar, if it gets any of it, ingests it, it will die. So it's a great organic way to deal with cabbage looper problems. Now, let's face it, if you planted all of these cabbage, well, at 50 pounds apiece, that'd be a lot of coleslaw. This is the part of the show where I answer viewer questions. And this past week, I got a question from Jasmine. She lives in Tennessee, Zone 7. And she said, Alan, believe it or not, my children love broccoli. They really, really love it. And I'd like to have a few tips on how to grow it. Well, Jasmine, it's great your kids love to eat broccoli. Now let's get them as excited about growing it as they love eating it. You know, I was recently in Alabama at the Bonnie Plant Farms where they have several varieties of broccoli they grow, and there's one in particular that I find easy, and I think you'd enjoy knowing about it. I think one of the reasons I enjoy growing broccoli so much is that it reminds me of how I can extend the growing season. What I like to do is plant it very early. This variety is called early dividend. I can plant it before the last frost date. And I can plant it at the other end of the season, say in September or maybe even early October, and I can get another crop of it in that cool season. When you plant them, you want to make sure that the little pack that it's growing in, which forms the root ball, is actually broken up. You don't want to plant it with that shape. You want to get those roots spread out and covered with soil. I mean, just think about it. Planting broccoli that early with such a yield, you can enjoy fresh broccoli, and what you don't eat, you can freeze. It freezes beautifully, so you can enjoy broccoli when it's out of season. Give it a try. Well, Jasmine, I hope those tips are helpful. And one other thing to think about, plant your broccoli about 2 weeks apart, then you'll have successive harvests of broccoli and plenty for those kids to grow and eat. Okay, when we come back, I'll meet you in the kitchen for a delicious recipe. This frittata is so good. It's made with prosciutto and red peppers, and I'm going to show you how to make it. Now, what you want to do is you want to take a frittata pan like this, and what I've done here is I've taken 4 ounces of prosciutto and 2 leeks, finely chopped, and I'm just going to get these going over here and cook for just a few more minutes. You only need to saute these for about 4 minutes. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to slice this red pepper into little long strips like this. And it looks like our prosciutto and leeks are just about ready. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these off and plate them over here. Because the next ingredient, which gives some real body to the frittata, will be potatoes. So we'll just let those cool. And then I'm going to take a tablespoon of olive oil while the skillet is still hot, and then a tablespoon of butter. Yum, yum. And then I'm adding potatoes. This represents 3 potatoes, medium size. So what you want to do is you want to cook these potatoes for about 15 minutes until they're just tender. You don't want to overcook them. And you'll want to stir them from time to time. Okay, now let's get started with the eggs. I'm going to move this frittata over. I hate to get rid of it. So good, but I'll come back to that in a little bit. What I want to do here is take 6 eggs in the bowl. I'm just going to push the peppers out of the way. And we're going to use these fresh eggs. I think our New Hampshire Reds laid these. I like to just crack them and check them first. Look how firm those yolks are and how lovely that color is. You want to take these 6 eggs and you want to mix them together like this. This will be the binder for the frittata. The whole time I'm doing this, our potatoes are cooking nicely over here. And what I want to do is begin adding ingredients to this. This is the point where everything gets all dumped in the bowl together. So I'm taking 3/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. Yum, yum. I'm going to take about 1/2 cup of Parmesan. I'm going to leave a little bit in here to garnish the top. I've got just a little bit for flavoring, some nutmeg, about 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and then just a little bit of salt. And I want to add some cracked pepper. I really like the flavor of the cracked pepper. And then I have 4 ounces of goat cheese, and then 1/4 cup of chopped chives, another great garden herb. Okay, now our potatoes I think are about done, so I'm turning that off. And I'm going to take the prosciutto and the leeks, putting those in here as well. Put this aside. And then I'm going to take all of these peppers that I prepared, and they go in here in the mixture. Look at those colors. Isn't that fantastic? Okay, now we're ready to assemble the last ingredients, which is just a matter of turning the heat on. I want to throw this garlic in first. This is about 2 tablespoons of finely minced garlic. I just want to mix that all together. Before it gets too hot, what you want to do is take this mixture now that we've created over here, and simply pour it on top. But you want to make sure that the potatoes are even across the bottom, because this is going to be the top of the frittata that you can see here. So you see how I've got them all evenly dispersed, and then I just take this egg mixture and pour it in like this. Spread it around. Look at those colors, isn't that beautiful? And you want this to cook for just about a minute. What that does is sears the inside layer of the eggs, gets it started. Okay, now just to finish it off, I'll take that little last bit of Parmesan that I had and I'll dress the top of it. Now you want this to cook for just a minute or two, and then you take the top of this pan. It will just cover the top like this. We're going to put it in the oven for about 15 minutes until it's firm at 350. All right, one of the side benefits of this recipe, it makes the kitchen smell incredibly wonderful. Now I'm going to finish up this piece of frittata, and I encourage you to give it a try. You'll love it. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Time has certainly flown by. I hope you'll get out there and plant some of your own vegetables. It's very satisfying. And please try that red pepper frittata. It is truly yummy. You can find all this information, including the recipe, on my website. It's pallensmith.com. Well, I better get this chard planted. So until next time, from the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.